Yeah, so today we want to do the walk cycle, and unfortunately that's kind of hard because trying to have a natural movement is uh, a little bit tricky. And there are, in the, let's say, in the computer graphics field, there are some animators, there are some modelers, there are some, let's say, people who are specialized in the rendering part. Or let's say if you go to the games, there are some programmers, some game designers. uh, so yeah, there are different tasks, and just having all the things perfect is nearly impossible for just one person, or at least it takes so much time, and we should improve our skills really too much to, I mean, achieve those, let's say, uh, great outputs. But at least we can see how things work. And I don't know how much have you seen in the lectures, but uh, today's, I mean, nowadays, because having a natural animation, even with an animator, a very good and talented animator, is almost impossible. They just have some, let's say, what do they call it? Sorry, let me just look at the name. I forget. Uh, yeah, motion capture. I forgot the name. So they have some motion capture, let's say, devices that they have an actor. They just put some, let's say, cloths and devices on their character, and then that character just uh, I mean, perform some actions, and that's then recorded by those, let's say, very expensive devices. At the end, there is an animator, or a special, let's say, a professional person that just gets these values and fixes them, because there are some noises, or there are some, let's say, problems in matching some rigs with together. But at the end, they just try to put that natural motion in the, let's say, in a high level game, or in a very good animation. And that gets really uh, I mean, important when you want to have a realistic animation or realistic game. Yeah, so as I said, we cannot completely go with having a fully natural movement, but let's see how much we can just get near to it. um yeah, so going back to here, this image is just a reference. You can also use a video for that. For example, you just see a person that is constant, or even moving, let's say, and you just try to match the joints, the, let's say, the joint position and the overall character pose to that, let's say, movie. And then that's one way. There's also one another way that we can just have a concept of the walking cycle, and by looking at it, then we try to match things with it. So that's it, and just let's try to see how it goes. um, so what I'm going to do is to use my character that I made in the previous lab. If you remember, we had this character, and then we used the Maya's human IK tool to create a rig for our character, and then we just painted a bit of the skin weights. Actually didn't finish it because I didn't have time, but yeah, you just had to paint the weights in order to make them more natural, and then bind the, let's say, the skeleton and the mesh. And after that, we could go with the controls, which we did. So we had the controls. I think one thing that I didn't tell you is, I mean, I added a, let's say, short video at the end of last week's lab, and that's just pinning the translation and rotation. If you want to have, let's say, a control, I mean, if you want to, let's say, uh, make this joint stay there, you just go on that control point, and then just click on these two, pin translation and rotation, and that's based on what you want. If the rotation, let's say, is not important, then you can obviously turn it off. But if these are on, then when you move the, let's say, the joints, those would try to stay there, or at least they will just face there. I mean, you can see that it just tends to be there, but overall structure of the body is just cannot reach that point anymore. Yeah, so whenever you just put things here, then if you just, let's say, move the hip, you can see that the character tends to try to let's say, fix all the joints there. But if you just move it, then when you move the hip, the hand just comes with it. So that's just one thing that I wanted to say. And actually we are going to use this pinning tool, this pin, let's say, attribute of the controllers, to avoid having foot sliding. So foot sliding is the problem with these motions, because the overall character is moving. It's very possible that, and that's, I think, the biggest problem in designing and, let's say, making these animations, that because all the joints are moving, the foot also moves. But in the real world, when we walk, uh, the foot that is on the ground, it actually stays there until the other foot just comes on the ground, comes back on the ground. So I think we can also say it in the picture. So yeah, for example, here in the passing, you see only this foot is on the ground. So although all the, let's say, the whole body moves forward, the foot just stays there. But when, if you want to try to do it, let's say, with forward kinematics, that's almost impossible to uh, avoid having foot sliding in a timely manner. Even with that, you will still have some small movements. But I think with the inverse kinematics and just using these controls, that makes things a lot easier. But we may still see, if you just pay attention a lot, you will see a little movement, but not that much. So that's hopefully is going to be a good improvement in making these work cycles. And let's see how it goes. And just let me tell you the last thing, and that's uh, the fact that there are many tutorials on the internet that you can go, and as I said, there are good animators obviously around the world, that some of them have just recorded some tutorials. I think if you want to learn more, or if something here that does not really make sense on what I'm doing, just please go and look at other tutorials. There are lots of them, let's say, in YouTube. And yeah, let's see how it goes. And I have done this today. I hope I don't mess things up. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, so here you see we are going with 24 frames per second. So I'm going to say, uh, I'm I will try to just have this half of the walking cycle from this contact to this contact point. And I think because that's the same, you can do this part after that yourself. um yeah, I think that's all. Let's see just how we can do it. So I'm going to say this half of that walk cycle is going to happen in 1.5 seconds. So it would be 36 frames in total. The timeline, if that's not there, that's perfect. I would say just go workspaces my classic and then reset it. I hope that comes back. That comes back. If that, yeah, does it work? No, okay. So actually, I haven't had this problem. I was a little worried. Happy to hear that. Okay. So, any other question before we go forward? Okay. So again, going back to this picture, I'm going to start with this contact. So the right foot is going to be on the ground. This part, and then the heel is going to be on the ground for the left foot, and the hands are kind of uh, let's say in a different and opposite direction of the foot. And if you just pay attention, maybe it's a little bit, yeah, it's better here. You will see that the spine just rotates a bit toward the foot that is, let's say, behind the whole body. So the spine just rotates a little bit towards that, and then the chest just does the opposite thing to just help the body to have its own balance. So these are the things that really makes uh, making a walking cycle really hard. So let's say just if you want to animate a car, that's pretty much simple. The car is just a body, let's say a bunch of metals above some wheels. So you just need to try to have a rather natural movement in the car. Let's say it just starts, accelerates, and then decelerates. That's a lot more, let's say, possible to do. And then you can, with kind of doing some mathematics, you can try to calculate the rotation of the wheels. But with the body, because it's just a very complex structure, and our body just tries to keep the balance when we are moving. um, yeah, just replicating it in Maya is really hard, especially for someone like me that does not have too much experience in it. But again, we are going to try our best. Sorry, and see how it goes. So we will start with the right foot. I'm going to go. I think we should go to the left foot to see the right foot. That's perfect. Yeah, so we are seeing the right foot here, and there's also one more thing. We are going to move the whole spine just a little bit down. You can, as I said, do it with other let's say characters, and also there are many different, let's say, uh, even methods for doing this animation. That's what I prefer, and that may not be the best or the most optimized way. You can, if you think it's not really great, you can go and see, and I mean, the other, let's say, tutorials. Okay, so for this joint, the heel one, I'm going to put it in -12. And I remember when I looked at the character from front, I was thinking that maybe the feet are a little wide open, so I'm just going to make it a little, I mean, make it to come back a little toward the origin. So let's say something like -6 is a bit better here, and then 6 because they are just it's a symmetric model. I'm just putting +6 for the left foot and -6, sorry, for the right foot. Okay, and let's see, the position of the right foot is -12, which means that it's 12 centimeters uh, behind the origin point, and I'm going to put the left foot somewhere at 12 centimeters in front, or maybe we can just go with 10 to make it a little bit better. That's a little hard. You should go back and see your let's say reference. If you have multiple monitors, that makes things better. I have 2 monitors, but because I want to show it to you, I will just stay with it here. So as you saw, the heel should be kind of here, and then the foot just rotates a bit toward up. So that's like something like this. Uh, Again, you can just put so much time on making it more natural. But yeah, I think we can say that's okay. I'm just trying to see which one seems better. Maybe that's okay. And just moving the hip here, rotating it, as I said, towards the foot behind the body. And you can also watch videos. I think they will just give a few more, let's say, uh, preferences to you. You can just take a look at them and see if these assumptions that we're making are really correct, or you should just maybe add a little more to them or change them. And usually when we are moving forward, we always have our head looking exactly toward the front direction that we are traveling along. So uh, just as I said, we can just say the chest is trying to keep our body balanced, but the head should be uh, as best as we can, should align to the forward direction. Yeah, so let's see the reference again. The right hand is just, well, something like that, and the left hand is, so the right hand is a little in front of the character, and then the left hand is behind it. So let's just move the hand here, then to here, and somewhere like here. Um, the hand, the overall hand, you see it, for example, the character here, the reference has just opened his, as I close his hand, I close its, let's say, fist. You can do it, that's not really hard. You just select, for example, these four control points. If I have selected them correctly, let's see. Yeah, I think I've selected them. And tool settings, let's say objects. Just close the fist a bit if you want. Again, just try to see yourself or try to see some videos and make the assumptions yourself. You don't really have to follow the reference unless, for example, it's stated in an assignment that try to make it as I mean, let's say as similar as you can to the reference. But if that's not stated, then let's say you can just try to do your own best. Let's see the reference again. I think that's okay. For the left hand, just goes back. Sorry if I'm moving the camera too much. It's a little hard for me to just understand what I'm exactly doing. Okay, so that's too much. Maybe then let's say rotating the hand a bit. Just giving it a bit of natural, say, shape. So I think I've just messed it up. Maybe I can go back and start. Yeah, let's just go back, see what happened exactly. So I try to move it first somewhere like here, and then there, and then bringing it a little back. Okay, and then rotating it a bit. There's also one possibility that you can play with the let's say with the elbow, but let's see if I can solve it using that method. So again, it's just the matter of time that we should just play with it a bit. Okay, so if we are okay, let's say with the position of the hand, let's just compare it with, yeah, we can always solve the fist, but if you are okay with the position of the wrist, let's say, you can just do it from here as well. You can just pin the whole translation and the rotation, I mean, and the position. Now we can try to move the elbow to make it feel a little bit better, hopefully. I think that is okay. You can just, let's say, do some exaggeration with the walking, or try to make it natural. It's just also based on what you want to have at the end. Something like that I would say is okay, but maybe I should then rotate the wrist a little bit like that. And the reason the elbow is like this, and I mean that comes from the anatomy of the body, and I'm not really good in that, and you can see there are some rig problems here that we could fix it before going for the animation. But yeah, it's because the hand is going back, but I mean, it's just going back from the shoulder, but the rest of the hand is just having a drag, and it just tends to stay where it was. So it just the hand just bends naturally along the elbow to yeah, just maintain the hands position. And yeah, I think have, I mean, I tried to describe it as best as I could. Hopefully that makes some sense to you. Maybe that the previous one was better. Yeah, something like this a bit. And yeah, Okay, so let's say if we are okay with this setting, yeah, and I think for example we could go with a little bit more to give a bit more sense to our movement. So I will just make it a little more, and let's just look at it from above. I think it's perfectly aligned, but I will just try to do it again. Okay, hopefully that's okay. And yeah, so let's say if we are okay with the structure here, I'm just going to select the controls, then go to select hierarchy. But that's the root position. You can make a key from it or not, but I'm just going to skip it because we haven't changed that one. And we have just made this position for this step. Any question? Any problem? Have you tried to do it on your character? Is anyone who needs more time to make its own pose there? Okay, so if there are no questions, let's just see what's the next step. Sorry. So what I'm going to do is to uh, skip this, let's say this recoil step, that the foot just gets on the ground and then the passing happens. If you can do it, obviously you have a more natural animation and you can do it. That's not really hard and that's not really different from what we do, let's say, with the other two poses. But just wanted to say that but for just the sake of time and saving some time for you, just we will skip this part, and for doing these just make sure that you play with this hips position. You can, let's say, here you will see that it just goes even let's say a little below the starting point, and in the high point it just gets a little above that. So just try to do it, but as I said, it just makes the movement better, and we are just going to skip this step to save some time. So going to the 19th frame, you will see in this passing point, the left foot just gets on the ground. Uh, yeah, and then it's here, yeah, and the right foot is completely above the ground, and the whole, you can see the body is kind of in between of the right and left foot. Here it just comes above the passing point, because you know this the whole weight of the body is on the left foot, let's say, so it should just come above it, because otherwise the body will just lose its balance. And just adding 1 and 35, it would 37, sorry, it would be 38. Dividing it by 2, it would be 19. So 19 is the let's say is the frame that I'm going to set that uh, passing point there. There is one thing to consider here. So there are 2 points that we want them to kind of stay there for a few, let's say, frames, and then uh, it can just, let's say, this part of the foot can just go at the beginning, but let's say the heel, we want it to stay there the whole time until it just reaches this, let's say, frame. So I'm going to say this is okay for this frame, and that's okay because we don't really care about this foot. It just should start moving, uh, but here it should just stay there. So pinning this one here is okay, and actually the correct thing to do. But I'm going back to the first frame, I'm going to set a key for this one as well. So we are saving it that we want here in the frame 1, in the first frame, let's say, we want it to be pinned in the both transform and rotation. But when we reach here in the contact, sorry, in the passing point here, after that we want the uh, let's see, sorry, we want the claw to yeah, just stay on the ground while the right foot gets back on the ground on the heel. So at, let's say at the frame 19, I'm going to then pin this let's say joint and then unpin the other one so that this, let's say, claw stays here, or paw if you want to say. Yeah, so here we just made the key for this, and we will do the same for the paw here as well. Yeah, sorry, key selected. So these are to our actually, I mean, we have stored them in our, let's say, frames. And again, going back to the frame 19, first I'm going to move the hip over the right foot, sorry, the left foot. We are also going to move the right foot, looking at the here the contact point, sorry, the passing point. The left foot is completely flat, the right foot is something like 90 degrees. So let's see if we can replicate it. Again, that's also really important to have a good rig, because that helps you really. You can see here the rig is not really good because I haven't put any time on fixing it, but for yourself just try to do it. That really helps you to have a great animation. Okay, so here you can see that the left foot is rather okay. The left knee is not placed correctly. Let's see if we can make it a little better. You can also put it like this. If you are not happy with the, let's say, with the foot's rotation, you can go here and do it that way. There's also one more thing. Some prefer to have really symmetric movements. So let's say if here the right is rotated, let's say 10 degrees along the y-axis, they want it, let's say if you go to the frame 19 plus 37, when the other passing point happens, they want to have exactly the same, let's say, pose. That's okay, but if you want to have a natural movement, when we move, there are some, let's say, differences in each cycle we have. So you can, I mean, you can just get away with not having all the things really symmetric, but that still should make sense. So yeah, just wanted to say that you don't really need to worry about having exactly the same frames on left and right parts of the body. So yeah, so the other part is, if you just go back here, you will see it's rather, let's say, straight. So I'm going to set things to 0 here. Sometimes now it works, but sometimes these rotations just don't follow the number, so you should just use these arrow keys to align them as best as you can. That happens, so that's really common. You can see here, for example, even here it just starts with 35 degrees. I just put it to 0, nothing happens. So unfortunately that's Maya, and we should just try to do it ourselves. So I'm going to go with near 0 degrees along this, and then okay, so that's the other one. Okay, something like that would work. And for the head, I think it's better to look it above. I think it's pretty much okay, but if you want to really have a good animation, it's better to look it from the front as well, to see if that's, for example, not rotated like this. But I think it's pretty much okay. And yeah, let's just bring the right hand back. I think it's not, it should not also be pinned. Okay, so let's just move it like here and then put it back there. Somewhere like that would work. Again, you can work with the fists, let's say, positions, but I'm going to leave that for you. I think I showed it, let's say, the basic things that you need to do for setting the hand. You just need to set, I mean, work with these endpoints. Just let's say if you want to close the hand, just select all four and then rotate it back. Yeah, so somewhere like here, for example, would work if we just rotated a bit. Yeah, so there are still some problems here. Let's see how it goes. So you can also, I mean, the body just moves a little bit above as well, but yeah, it just depends. Oh, so it's here it says, so it's a little different. We are just maybe better to hear. I see it just moves a little bit above, but that's up to you. You can just stay, I mean, put it, stay there. Uh, yeah, let's see if I can again put the hip to 0. Okay. I think that's okay, at least to me. But yeah, for example, okay. So for if you want to have just, let's say, your wrist there, you can just momentarily pin it, and then let's say pin both translate and rotation, and then just move the elbow a little bit to make it feel better. I think that's okay. But again, I'm not a really good person in these things. I think you could do a lot better than me, hopefully. Hierarchy, and then unselecting that, setting a key for frame 19, and oh my god, I think I just made a mistake. Yeah, so that's really important. You just that's really bad. You just don't need to, I mean, you just need to stay there exactly at the frame 20 when you want to do things. If you just go to frame 21, everything would just go away, and the language was here, I mean, different from English, so the S key was not working, and I made a mistake and I went back to frame 20. So that's my mistake. Let me just do it very fast again. I think again, maybe if you look at it, that would also good for you to have more experience with that. So I'm going to select the knee, make it open a little bit. That this problem may be even there in the first frame, but I haven't seen that. I can still go back after, let's say, setting the frame 19. I can still go back and fix that whenever I want, but let's just focus on the mistake I've done here and finish that. And by I mean, our body has just evolved in a way that we preserve energy when we walk. So let's say this foot just doesn't go that much up when we want to just walk, and that's why we can walk long distances. But if you want to, for example, have some exaggeration or have some more feelings into your walk, maybe you can just, okay, that's not moving at all. Yeah, because that's pinned there. Let's just unpin it, please. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry for my mistake. That's always happens. And try to avoid as best as you can. You just, when you are doing something in the frame and you have set a key, let's say in the first frame, when you just change it, all those changes, I mean, just goes away, and yeah, that's really painful. What's wrong here? Something like that would work, but let's just go back from, and I think the orders could be a little better. Maybe let's say when you set the heap, then you will have more sense on what is happening. As I said, I will just move it a little up and put 0. That would not work, so let's just try it. Well, yeah, you see, I tried to fix the hand, but it was better for me to first go with the chest and then try to maybe going to object would give me more sense. Yeah. Yeah, so it's better to go with hip, chest, and then hands if possible. That would make things a little bit easier. And again, if you're not happy with the wrists, So with the elbows position, just pin it for a few seconds. Okay, so that's stretched enough so that cannot. Yeah, just giving a bit of rotation to our hand and trying it to align it with the hands direction, because we normally don't put our wrist that way. Yeah, something like that is okay. Yeah, so when you have enough time, just try to uh, look at a few, let's say, videos or a few at least reference images, and then try to start doing the animations. Okay. Something like that. See the reference image again here. So the right hand is a little bit okay, so this one goes a little, maybe, yeah, something like that would work hopefully. And let's see how things work. Yeah, and I'm going to hopefully not make that mistake again. So select hierarchy, then deselect this one and set a key for that. Now we can safely go back to this frame and see how things work. So I think that seems okay, at least to me. And you see the heel is almost statically staying there, so that's really good, because that makes the feeling of the walking at least a little, I mean a lot better than when you are doing things in the forward kinematics way. Yeah, there's also one more, let's say, maybe important thing to consider. I think I just first, yeah, set the key for that. Again, you saw that I just moved the frame. When you are doing any changes in each frame, don't do the mistake I made. Oh, 0 on it. Okay, now save it. Try to align everything. I think I just, yeah, I think I should work back and fix the chest. I don't know why I forgot to fix the hip first, but that's okay. It's just two more joints. Yeah, you should be a little patient. You should go while we are doing things in frame 20. Yeah, you should just go back and see things and come back. There's also one way to, let's say, fix this, something like that. So what I would do is to just select hierarchy, copy this frame. I would paste it here. Just right click, and then I would delete this frame. Now I have everything in the frame 19. I don't know how I made that mistake, but that happens. Yeah, so let's see it again from the right side. Okay, it seems okay to me, but you will have more sense when you look at the videos, let's say. Okay, so the knee is not really good. Let's see, something like that would work better. And going back here, let's see if the knee is, yeah, so here the knee is really bent in a strange way, the first frame, so I will fix that as well. Now let's see things again. I think it's okay. So again, you should just look at everything in front, in right, in above, in front of the perspective view to see if there are any problems to be solved. Okay, so now here when I said we want the, let's say, the cloud or the POW to stay there, now we have to do what I said. So here you see there are some keys, and you can see this pinky color here that shows us, or let's say a bright red color that shows us there are some keys there. So what I'm going to do is to make that unpinned now, because we want the heel to move, but we want this controller to stay. So I will pin the translate here, but I will unpin it there, and I will save the key for them, key selected, and going back here I'm going to select the key for this one as well. Okay, now at the end when we want to have our hip, we will first have to position it and try to fix, I mean keep this part of our foot stay on the ground. There's also one more thing. So when we just put this, let's say around minus 12 centimeters and this one around 12 centimeters, we were thinking of having a, let's say, a step of, let's say, 24 centimeters between each foot. So at the end, when let's say here we arrive there, if you want to have a good movement, that's important as well. So here you see it's 16 and previous it was 0. So it means that while the uh, yeah, so it was kind of between these two, but when we arrive here above the foot, let's see, we have moved around 12 centimeters, but the hip has moved more than that, let's say for 4 centimeters. Let's say, I think there is an, oh no, I thought that there is a message here. Okay, so that's important because, you know, when we move, we just have a uniform speed. We just don't get slower and faster. So try to keep that as well. So let's say if you want to have at the end 24 centimeters moved forward, let's say, so at the middle you should be around 12 centimeters. Let's say you should have moved 12 centimeters from that point. So that's important because otherwise you will see some, let's say, stopping and starting movements, while that's not really natural in natural motions. Okay. Okay, and as I said, let's just go to the frame 35, say 37, and maybe first just set the hip to 24 centimeters to, let's say, because we know that's the position at the end. And the, let's go back here. Sorry, I forgot what was that. The contact is like this. So okay, we should just move it like that and then rotate the heel similar to this. Any question? I can just wait for you if you need more time or if you have any question. I I think that's a little hard to keep with this, let's say, lab. Maybe it's better for you to look at it and then try to do things again after the lab on your own character, because each character are different, so that's a bit hard to follow things exactly. Okay, so let's just see things from here. With S, just select those joints or here those controls that you want to uh, put a frame on them, and then use the S button on your keyboard to set a key. So here I can just put S to set a key for the heel here. Okay, something like that. And I'm going to ask the cloud to try to stay there. Here, sorry. No, let's see what happens. Now you see very small movements there, and that's near actually no movements because we have pinned it there, and Maya tries its best to just make it happen for us. So again, because that foot is now behind the let's say the body, so the body just bends a little toward that. So again, I think that was 25 degrees for the right foot when it was behind the whole body, but here I'm just going to for, let's say, to 24 degrees, and I believe that gives you more natural movement because not all the movements are exactly the same. So the chest again tries to avoid it, and with the head let's just something like that. You can, for example, even move it a little bit, move the chest a little bit, and let's just fix the head again. I think that was okay. I didn't even have to. Looking it from the front, maybe it's a little bit. No, that was, I think, okay. Yeah, it's okay. It seems okay. Um, any other, yeah, the hands are still remaining there. So the right hand goes, oh, what's that? Let's see. The right hand goes back and the left hand goes forward. So yeah, please ask questions if you have any while I am doing these things. So how it's that? It's just okay. The left hand is like that. Sorry, I forget. So that's one mistake I was making. So that comes some near. That seems okay. Around here. Again, if you are not happy with the elbows position, you can momentarily pin the hand to make it stay there, and now play with the elbow a bit to make it a little more natural if you want, and then unpin the hand again. That helps you to have a better natural, let's say, position, and that hand just goes, no, this one just goes here and again here. So again, I'm not going to, let's say, set the hands position. I will show you again at the end of the lab, but that's pretty simple, selecting the end points of the fingers and then, let's say, rotating them with together. Yeah, that seems good for me. And yeah, again, let's just select all of them, hierarchy, deselect the root, and use the S key to set a key for them. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so for the right hand seems, the left hand seems, actually the both of them seem a little stay some at some points. So that's it's a little problem that you may see there. Actually, I think first we can move this hand a little back. Yeah, so that's the problems with these motions. We try to have a rather uniform movement in the hips position, but for the hand you will see some, let's say, it just stays there and again comes back. So you usually expect it to uh, continue, but it just waits, let's say, here, then goes back again. Yeah, so that's the problem. I think I forgot where is that, but there are some graphs that you can see and try to fix them. Let's say fix the positions. I think there's also another solution for that. If we go to setting, preferences, and then preferences, in the animation, so if we go to, let's say, the weighted tangents, and if we go to flats, let's see how things go. Actually, that doesn't really, I think it just makes things a little better, but not that much. So yeah, it just, again, if you want to have a better movement, you just need to play with those things. Let's see the settings for the animation again, if I can find any better settings to fix things. Okay. Okay, yeah, I think there are no more things that I can do like this for now. But for example, you can try to set keys in between to make the movement feel a little better. But actually, yeah, that's, if you run it, I think that feels better. But yeah, I mean, if you just pay really attention to the details, you may see these problems. For example, the foot just moves a bit and the hands move a little, let's say, janky. uh yeah, so let me see if I can find that graph thing. If not, I will just add again a 1 minute short video to show you how you can just gain access to those graphs. Graph editing. Let's see if I can find it. So there is a graph editor if I can find it. Let's see. Where was that? Windows animation editors. Okay, so I don't know why I didn't see it. Yeah, it's there. Okay. Now for this control, so you should just work with these, let's say with these curves. It just shows you how it tries to um, blend the positions and let's say the rotations together. So yeah, I won't go with that because it will just take so much time, but you can just, I believe, select the points and move them. So, and the colors just show you the some meaning. So here, this is the, I believe, the translation, and that's the rotation. And I don't know why they really, yeah, you can just go with one of them as well. But if you just look at them, because these two colors are really the same, I think they are actually exactly the same. I cannot differentiate between them. But yeah, if you just select those, you will see things. For example, here you may, for example, want to play with these parts, or I think you should be able to, yeah, for example, make it a tangent and try to play with these to make the uh, translations a little different. But again, that really needs to you to put too much time on it to try to make it fix. And yeah, let me see if I can show you I don't know, have you seen the motion capture in the slides, or do you want me to show the motion captures to you? Okay, um, let me show that. Yeah, here, for example, you will see people just, these are the devices that there are many cameras, and these points on actually there are different technologies, but some, I mean, maybe the most common one are these dots. They just put them around different parts of your body, and there is also a very clever software that just calculates the let's say position of these uh, body parts, then make them I mean gets all these and information from all the camera, and then understands the position of each joint, let's say in the world, because each, let's say, camera gives the position, if it's clever enough, based on its own frame. Then I mean there are some, let's say, translations between them to fix things. Yeah, and then at the end, when it just calculates the position of these things in the world, then it just calculates, for example, if there is a joint here in the shoulder, what would be the degree, or what would, I mean, where it should be in the world. So yeah, again, uh, this is the best thing now, but yeah, for example, here you can see maybe they are recording an action scene. But yeah, as I said, when you want to do things yourself, then that's maybe the best thing. Or you can just, again, if you're not happy with, let's say, the translation, let's say the speed here for one hand or for both of them, you should just go back to the graph editor and try to fix things from there. Okay, let me see if there is anything remaining that I should mention here. Mm, yeah, we encourage you to use your own model and upload it somewhere and submit the URL here. Yeah, and then if you use any other model outside the ones that you have created yourself, please cite them. And if you use, let's say, a reference image, please cite that as well, if it's not these things that we have provided here. And yeah, that this one is also a very good tutorial. I'm not going to play it, But yeah, and there are I think many lessons after that if you want to really good I mean get great into making walking cycles. But yeah, I think maybe looking at the first two lessons would be enough from that, let's say, uh, animator. And yeah, I think that could be it for our today's lab. And again, please don't forget to cite things and do things yourself. Please do not use, let's say, if you want to make a VAC cycle, we can easily go to Mixama, download the model with a, let's say, with a VAC animation and submit it. But again, that's coming from motion capture, so that would be really easily uh, I mean, detected that that's a very good cycle, a walking cycle that could not be really made by hand. And yeah, that would also not be a good and proper way for you to learn things. So please do it yourself. And yeah, I mean, having, let's say, two bad cycles, uh, I mean, is a lot better than using ones that are in the internet, because at the end, let's say in the next 2 months, you will learn to have a very better work cycle if you like to do these things. Yes, so I mean, having modeling the entire scene is going to be really hard, I believe. So you should be able to use some other models from the internet, but please check that with Hani as well and make sure that she also thinks the same as me. I will also ask her when we meet with together. But yeah, I think you can do it, but again, it's really important to cite things. So I mean, if you don't cite things, then we would prefer that you are saying that you have, let's say, modeled that object yourself, or let's say you have created uh, let's say that animation or that texture yourself. So everything that's coming out of your group or yourself, yeah, just please mention it, because that could be considered as cheating. Any question, any problem? You're welcome. Okay, so as always, I will stay here until 4:50, which is the end of the lab, to answer your questions. But yeah, it's the end of today's lab, and thank you all for being here. Let's see. Yeah, you are welcome, and see you in the next lab.